Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. Host JP John Poz with me today. Very special guest. You may know him from WWE or even TNA. He's a former NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion, Mr. Lex Lovett. Lex, welcome in. How you doing?
Uh, Thanks for having me. It's nice to meet you. It's a wonderful experience getting that just out of the blue. Hey, you want to come on a radio show, a podcast? Yeah, why not, man? Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. I actually just talked to Buck Quarterman, so
Oh,
you're in good company.
that's my guy, man. Oh, we had some good times. So many good times.
So what are you up to now? Are you doing anything wrestling related or what's going on in your world?
No, man, I'm so far removed from wrestling. It's been 2018 was the last time I did anything in the ring. I did a wrestling match for the Navy SEAL a tribute. One of our buddies that passed away. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the situation, but they had a tribute show, and 2018 was the last time I was in the ring. They called me, asked me if I would do it. I said, hell yeah, but just put me in there with somebody that I can trust. So he says, how about Frankie? Talking about Francisco Ciazzo. And I said, hell yeah, let's do it. So that was my official last match. And from there, I just, I wasn't real big, around the scene by that time anyway. But that was kind of last time I had the boots on. And ever since then, I'm far removed from it. I currently, I run the parks department for a local municipality here in Central Florida. I've got 42 full-time staff members that I'm responsible for making sure they have a blessed life, and they come to work every day, and they have just a good experience when they have to come to work. So that's kind of my purpose these days, is just beautify my city and just enjoy the non-wrestling chaos portion of my life.
And interesting, you're wearing the Francisco Ciazzo shirt on right now, so you got little
Yeah,
tribute to him.
represent. He was a fantastic guy. We go back. I believe I first met him in '99, 2000. I was wrestling for NWA Florida, and he was wrestling for IPW here in town, and we did kind of an invasion angle. So I started working with IPW and met Ron Nemi, and so he brought me into the IPW fold. And at the time, Frankie, he used to wear these big floppy hats, and he all had these silly sunglasses on, fur coats, and he was all about the gaga and the having a good time, and very, very loud, very New York. So at first it was like, who's this guy? It wasn't anybody I was drawn to. Of course, I was wrestling all the guys, like Mike Sullivan and Scoot Andrews, and the guys that we were really pushing the level on how physical and how technical we could be in a hardcore company. That was the funniest part. A lot of people remember IPW hardcore, but they didn't know that man, we were solid when it came to technical wrestlers. But anyway, but over the years, Frankie grew on me. I saw him be there for all of his friends. I saw the heart he had for the business, and no one had a bigger heart than he did. He wanted to be a wrestler with every fiber in his being, and he was going to be a wrestler till he couldn't do it any longer. So God rest his soul. I'll go ahead and represent the Francisco Ciazzo label today.
Now, when you're going back, obviously 98, 99, 2000, that era, was there a lot going on in the Florida scene? I know NWA Florida and obviously, like you said, IPW, but was it like hot, like like it was many, many years ago, or how was the scene down there at that point?
Well, the scene was incredible. The talent that we had in this area was so hot and so good. We were the hotbed for the longest time, as far as Tampa being the hotbed for having every wrestler that you can think of live down here. So, us guys down here, we've grown up with our heroes in our community. It was nothing to see Dusty Rhodes out at a restaurant in Tampa, or Ric Flair when he was in town, but you would always see the Briscoe brothers and your local heroes around town. So so many wrestlers came from this area, and it seemed for some reason at that time, Florida, by the time I got in, Florida was kind of cold as far as getting any major looks from the wrestling companies at the time, WWE, WCW, ECW, and I came in right at the time where I had the worst timing ever, and that's kind of been the theme of my career is the worst timing ever. I came in 1999. A good friend of mine, Lex Lovett, that's how I ended up with the wrestling name Lex Lovett. He started wrestling, and he introduced me to Steve Kern, and I was getting ready to get started with him in 1999, and it seemed like wrestling was the biggest thing in the world at the time. And if you look back at the Raw and the WCW Nitro Wars and all that time, I was hearing crazy stories about, people being paid $100,000 just to sit at home, not to work for the other company. It was just, you were hearing all these things, and that kind of sucked me in. I've always been athletic, and I wanted to do something. I'd gotten out of college, and, I was a financial analyst for Raymond James, if you can believe that. Financial, and I just didn't want to settle down with that suit life, and I wanted to do something, to continue on with the athletics. So I got started, and I hit my stride after about a year. I got my WWE, my first tryout was in 2001. It was a match in Lafayette, Louisiana. And it wasn't like the next month, ECW, WCW, all that stuff with the craziness of WWE buying everybody down and buying everybody out. So now you've got, if you think about it, in 2001, 2002, I'm looking around like, hey, can I have a job? And now I have to compete with the entire WCW roster as well as the EC roster. And as a matter of fact, I had my first match, and about 2 or 3 months later, they brought me into up to Les Thatcher's place. I think it's
HWA.
Up. Yeah, H is HVA.
HWA.
HWA, yes, HWA. So I go up there for a tryout. And we walk in, and that was the tryout where AJ Styles was AJ Styles or Rene Dupree, Matt Morgan, I believe Sonny Siaki was there, a few others. But we walked in the first day, and I'm sitting there looking at the entire ECW roster sitting in the gym. Then I'm looking over and I'm seeing the WCW office. There's Arn Anderson and all those guys sitting over there. And there was 15 of us in the 15 individuals trying out, and there were probably 50 people in that room, and they were all ECW, WCW wrestlers just sitting around waiting for a spot. So I remember thinking, there is no way in heck, this is my time. So that's kind of when I knew, well, I'm gonna have to try to figure something else out, to keep this going. And we were hanging on for dear life. We XWF came about. I believe that was about 2002, 2003. But XWF came about. We thought this was going to be our savior. And, I had, by that time I had met Jimmy Hart, and I was brought in for the tapings, and I'm marking out everywhere I can look. There was 80 people in that locker room. and it was everybody that I grew up watching as a kid. And again, I'm thinking, how are we all going to make money? How are we all going to do this? How this is, this is going to be so hard. It was just a tough time to try to make it in the industry. But it was a passion for me, so I just kept on pushing. Got the opportunity to go overseas to Japan and really learned what it was like to be a wrestling superstar. As far as really being able to do it in the ring, being able to make people believe. So yeah, I was, just, cruising along, just trying to make it, just like everybody else.
What did you think about XWF? Though, like you were saying, like, can everybody make money? But what did you think? Did you actually think it could compete with WWE? I know you're filming at Universal Studios, but Jimmy Hart's involved. Hulk Hogan. Obviously, he's kind of involved. Mr. Perfect is he's there. Did you think that it could be possible, like the new WCW?
Yes, it was entirely possible. And I don't know. See, I'm not in the wrestling world anymore, and I don't really talk to people anymore, and I don't know what people say about the XWF anymore. And I'm casting notice dispersions on anybody. But that came down to that deal could have been done. And it was crazy. Like the first day, we're excited about it. We have all of our matches. Everything's going good. The star power there. All the young talent is there. I mean, it's got it's got big money feel to it. And it really, they were onto something. And I spent a lot of time with those XWF guys. After the taping debacle, and I'll get back to that, went down. I spent about 6 months with the XWF guys, trying to help train some of their bigger guys that were a little bit greener, some of the 300-pound monsters that they were trying to, train up. And, they were still trying to sell that thing. And Jimmy Hart, man, he put his heart and soul into it, and they were very passionate about it. But that whole thing came down, just from my perspective, to Hulk Hogan just didn't want to do business. And that was it. I don't really, care to go into it, any more than that. But, I just felt like there was legitimately 50 guys there that really could have used the work, an opportunity to kind of, give back to the boys. I don't know. I shouldn't be saying it. Just felt real shitty the way it all went down, where it was like a last minute decision, and he's pulling up from the table, and we're getting all these reports. I don't know what's real and what's not real, but it was just one of those things where the second day we were totally defeated. We got pulled into a room and saying, hey, NBC is pulled out. We don't have a TV deal. So at this point, we don't have a company. So we actually, that second day of taping, that was all. We had no deal at that time, and we had no idea what any of this was for. So it was just, everybody was like, okay, let's just put a good product out there, and let's get some good matches, and then maybe they can sell sell it to somebody else. And from what I saw, Jimmy Hart, he worked it hard. He was going to all the conventions, and he was knocking on all the doors he could. And just at the time, nobody really wanted to take on the project. So, it could have gone, but it was a hard time. WCW just fell flat on their face. ECW, they petered out, so, from a business standpoint, who wants to sink, a whole bunch of money into, what looked at the time to be maybe an industry on the decline. So,
and then obviously Hogan, basically a few months later, he's right back in WWF or WWE, if you will. But he goes right to WWF.
Oh yeah, yeah. And all he's got a great saying: everybody cuts their own deal, and he's the master at it, and he cut his deal. So, that's all I really needed to say about that.
Yeah. Yeah, what a shame, because it even the production value was really good for XWF.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everything was there. It just it didn't have that, that TV backing. We were told NBC wanted Hogan, and Hogan didn't want to be a part of it. There wasn't enough money there. That's what we were told, and so that was that. But,
Now you did Turnbuckle too, right? Dusty's promotion, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. You did
oh yeah,
that as well.
oh yeah, that was probably some of the best times of my life. We had I started wrestling for Howard Brody with the NWA back in 1999 2000, and he was really good friends with Dusty. They've done a lot of business over the years. So anytime Dusty was coming down to South Georgia or Florida, he'd hit Howard up and bring in some of the Florida guys. So man, that was awesome. We were in rodeo arenas and livestock corrals and old American, gritty, fairgrounds. I mean, it was kind of what I imagined the 70s were like. I mean, I can remember one time we were in Live Oak, Florida, and it was probably maybe 16 degrees outside, and we were in the livestock pavilion, and we walked out of we were walking out to the ring, and we were drying. We were trying to get the icicles off of our nose, and we went out there and just had the time of our life. But Dusty was incredible to work with, and at the time, Dustin was booking for him. Dustin was kind of in between companies at the time, so got to spend some good time with those guys and learning from those guys, and just Dusty Rhodes is everything that everybody's ever gushed about him. He's the man. He's genuine. He's he's a businessman, but and he'll protect his business. But he's a good down to earth guy. He'll talk to just about anybody and everybody, until he doesn't like you, and then he won't stop talking to you. He won't stop jawing with you, but that was a fun time, and that kind of helped me and Buck Quartermain later on when we were in TNA, and Dusty was the booker at the time, so we got a little bit of a push, a little bit of a notice, and that was another timing deal, right when Dusty. We were in TNA and Dusty was a booker, and Dusty decided out of the blue he just wanted to put his his endorsement on us and kind of do something with us, it's like, well, the TCW days, yeah man, we made that contact, we showed Dusty that we can go. Now we're in TNA, and he remembers us, and he still likes us, he still likes our work. Now all of a sudden he comes to us, says he's got an idea for us. We're going to be Team Fairplay. We did an entire day of filming. We had never been in a single vignette, and we were enhancement talent at the time. We weren't doing TV, and one of the producers come up to us and told us, hey, we need you to be here all day for TV, or all day for taping for the pay-per-view. And so we did vignettes all day that led up to us being kind of teased as Team Fairplay as a tag team. And so we're thinking, holy cow, this is our time. Maybe we're gonna get some momentum. And that was on Sunday. They actually aired the vignettes on the pay-per-view. Leave everybody scratching their head like, what's this Team Fairplay all about? And then on Monday was the day that because we were supposed to come back on Tuesday, and Monday was the day that Dusty left TNA and ended up in the WWE a few months later. But so it was like, yeah, great, great timing. So, as soon as Dusty left, that was all squashed. But Dusty took care of us. Dusty was good to us, and I loved working for him. one of my dream come true. As a kid, hey, someday I want to meet that guy. And then here you are, within his circle, and he trusts you to go out there and perform for his wrestling company. That was pretty sweet.
So you were always a big fan?
Oh yeah. When I was a kid, down here in Florida, Saturday mornings, that's what you did. You watched, we were WCCW, we caught down here, WWE, and then we had the NWA, the CWF, Championship Wrestling from Florida. So we really weren't into WWF down here, or at least my circle. It was mainly WCCW and Championship Wrestling from Florida. I can remember thinking WWF kind of looked like cartoons. It was hokey, it was cartoony. So I like the gritty, old school, guys fighting each other. That's kind of what I was drawn to. So, the Dusty Rhodes, the Harley races, the Von Erichs, that was wrestling to me. The Hulk Hogan's and the whatever, the Big Boss Mans and all that stuff that really wasn't on my radar till I didn't start watching WWF until probably late 90s in the kind of the Stone Cold era.
So always a big Dust fan, if you will. You're always a fan of Big Dust.
Oh yeah. Everybody was. There wasn't a single person on the planet that didn't pop for Dusty when he. Oh man, imagine yourself. This is the epitome of how over Dusty is. Going out there, wrestling the semi-main event, doing every crazy bump you can imagine, superplexes off of the top of the building, put yourself through. And you get a golf clap, and Dusty comes out and does a bionic elbow, and he rolls and does a bionic elbow, and the whole place goes, completely nuts. That's just, I mean, you can't help but feel joy when you're watching Dusty do his thing, no matter what it is. So I guess I'm a Dusty mark. I guess I'm proving that. So, but that's my take on him. He just brings joy to anybody who watches him. Just move around in the ring, he makes you laugh.
I did actually back in 2015, the last ever interview with Big Dust. So I did that interview with him, but before that and after that, just talking to him and stuff, he made you feel like you were his buddy. But who knows? He doesn't really know me, but just a little bit from a few conversations. But he makes it out like you're his buddy or his friend almost. It was crazy. I was like, wow, oh my God, I'm like friendly with Dusty Rhodes. This is crazy.
Yeah, he makes everybody feel like a friend. I can still remember it. Still rings in my ear. Lexi, baby, come sit with me. And yes, sir, I'll sit as long as you need me to, sir. And he would just sit and hold court. That was one of his favorite things to do. From my recollection, is just to sit and talk. Just chat with the guys, and just laugh and cut up, and that's kind of how I remember him, just kind of holding court, with all those men around.
So you mentioned like how he'd get the reaction from the bionic elbow. Do you watch current wrestling today? Because I feel like something that's missing to me, though, for sure, is like even Hogan, like the point, would get this big pop. It wasn't necessarily the moves. I feel like nowadays the guys are always trying to get moves with the pop and not the charisma, not the star power. You know what I mean? Like even The Rock at one point, he would do an eyebrow and get a gigantic pop. So do you watch current wrestling today? Are you noticing any things where the guys are just trying to get the moves over?
Well, yeah, I don't watch at all. I don't know what's going on. I couldn't even tell you who the champions are. Once you've kind of lived the life and you've had you've gone through it, and you've experienced the bad side of it, and the darker side of it. The luster fades, and you move on, and you have other things that you get interested in. For me, it's I own horses, train horses, and I have a little farm here, and I've got my animals, and that's kind of like I've lived the chaos life, and now it's more the quiet life. Where are we going with that?
Oh, just today's wrestling and like
Oh,
the moves and stuff.
yeah. So I don't watch it a whole lot, but it was getting bad. To and and I had a struggle with this. When I first started, see, I was a gymnast as a kid. I was very gymnastic, and before I did wrestling, I was actually a college cheerleader, and a gymnastics coach and all that. So I could at 250 pounds, I could still tumble across a football field, round off back handsprings all the way down the football field. I could do a standing tuck. I did a standing tuck on the top of a monument when we went to China in front of all these people, and I had basically, maybe a square foot to land in. So when I first started, I started seeing the Rob Van Dams and the flippity stuff get over. I started gravitating towards that, and I started gravitating towards the moves. But fortunately, I had Steve Kern as a trainer, and he was able to back me down. I mean, me and him had we had some heat for a while because I was questioning him one time about, well, the promoters are asking me to do all this stuff. They're the promoter. Aren't I supposed to listen to them? And he kind of thought I was questioning them, but Steve, he really was all about the fundamentals and being able to work and tell a story. I also had Jimmy Del Rey, who was down there with Steve, and they kept us grounded. We could have very easily been caught up into that, all the young guys. So I kind of think that guys are just trying to get over with the internet crowd and the internet fan and the meme and the highlight reel type era. They're it's like, hey, I just did 2 flips and landed on a guy. Well, I'm gonna do 3 flips. And it's like kind of an acrobatic one-upmanship. And I don't think there's any guys like Steve around anymore that are telling guys, hey, man, slow down, tell a story. Or they're trying to, and they're just the guys just won't listen. That could be it, too. This new generation, I don't know. I don't want to get into that old man, divisional type stuff. But maybe guys just don't want to listen to it anymore. And they think that they've evolved the sport, and this is what the sport is. And at the end of the day, I mean, the goal is to put asses in seats. If you think about it, all Vince McMahon really does is sell advertising. All right. He just needs eyeballs. Okay. And whatever's going to bring eyeballs to the screen, and whatever's going to put asses in seats, they're going to go with. And I just think they're doing the best they can with what they got. And there is a market for it. And if that's what your wrestling becomes, and the guys like myself who, were more wrestling purists, we can gripe about it, but I watch wrestling. If I do watch wrestling, I watch 70s and 80s wrestling, and I watch I'll watch Ric Flair and Steamboat, probably once a month, just because it's just like watching Rocky. But it doesn't seem like people want to sit around for that. That's another thing that I see. People don't want to sit around, for the 20 to 30-minute match. They want to see the 5-minute highlight reel and then move on to next, or the next entrance, or the next segment. So who knows? What I'm hearing is wrestling is they're doing good numbers. It's on the rise. There's AEW out there, so people, people have, a place to wrestle if you're not going to be in WWE. Who am I to say? It's not my cup of tea. And I don't think the magic happens quite as often when you're not telling the story. but they're selling tickets. I was just at a, that kind of, takes my mind, to this latest show I just went to. I did just go to a show just recently, TCW. I think it's Thunder Championship Wrestling. It's in Winter Haven, Florida. And a buddy of mine, Cahagas, runs the shows. So I went down there and, just to kind of get out of the house and see what was going on. Ran into Cahagas, and man, there was about 400 people packed into this little bar, and it was old school feel. They weren't super smart. It looks like they came from the neighborhood. It didn't look like your normal wrestling crowd, but it was awesome, man. It was like, it had that community feel of the way it used to be back in, the Sportatorium or the Fort Homer Hesley Armory. It was just, they were booing the heels. They were popping when they were supposed to. They were getting behind, the baby face. They didn't understand the heat, but they took the heat. Like it was a really good feel. And I had a great time, and Cahagas actually asked me to come say some words. So I went out there. I was so pumped just because the crowd was pumped. I was leading them, cheering TCW and all that. But I kind of feel like, that's kind of, where, just from watching my buddies and, watch them, what they're doing is the little independent shows seem to be a lot more fun these days. They're a lot more, a lot more new eyeballs, if you do it right and you book it right and you have people, that know how to book a show. I think that there's just so many amazing little pockets of wrestling in America that it's really cool, man. It's really cool to see what's going on right now, and that all goes back to hey, do I see the stuff on TV as too athletic, too flippity, too, man, I don't know. It's all working, so what do you do? What do you can just kind of sit here and ramble on like I am, nobody really knows. But anyway.
But hey, speaking of wrestling, like today, as far as being hot, WB is hot because of Dusty's son, Cody, killing it as champion. Even before that, when he was finishing the story that his daddy never finished, even that, for the 2-year arc, really, really was good stuff. Killing it business wise, though.
Yeah, I do see that. I do kind of, I kind of get, some exposure to it with the news, with the Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And that really just because, the relationship I had with his dad, it's really cool to see. And it's really cool, and I did see some stuff he's done lately. And it's kind of like, maybe, when I was talking about there's nobody old school anymore. I don't know. Hopefully these second generation wrestlers come in and kind of bring some of their wisdom. And I know Dustin does. I know Dustin, he'll help out, anybody and everybody. He's all about the business, and he, he's the first guy to tell you, hey man, you're doing a good job there, or hey man, why don't you, might maybe change that up a little bit. And he's always there to help the guys out. But it seems that there's a lot of maturity. When I look at Cody and kind of see some of the things he's done, there's a maturity there beyond years. And that's what I'm picking up. That's the vibe I'm picking up. And just, imagine being that young and being able to carry that much responsibility and be able to, carry, start and carry a company, and then, come back and just, light it up in the WWE like he has been. That's hard to do. That is real hard to do. And I my hat's off to him. And, I've never met the guy. I remember we had a wrestling show in Tampa one time, and I ended up being Dusty's chauffeur for the weekend. And I remember him talking about, because me and Dustin, we were kind of pounding around our buddies. I mean, we could say we were friends or whatever. I don't know, acquaintances. So I always ask, how's Dustin doing? How's this, how's that? And he's like, oh man. And he goes, my other son, he's killing it. And he's talking about his amateur career. I believe he was still involved in that. And he's like, man, he's going to be something special someday. So I remember that conversation. So it's cool to see it all come about.
Very, very cool. Now, going back to Dusty for a second, you mentioned you and Buck, who I talked to him a few weeks ago about the team with Fairplay. But what happened, though? Because he leaves and it's just scrapped? Because what is well, first of all, what's the idea supposed to be? And that's kind of interesting because Fairplay had a tremendous amount of heat.
Yes. Yeah. So it was, it was all very, it all happened really fast. So when they, wrestling being the most political, the political businesses I've ever been around, being considered somebody's boy or being considered, somebody's favorite can get you in trouble. And, when Dusty came into TNA, he wasn't liked by anyone on the booking committee. It was plain to see that, and everything that you hear about, the behind the scenes stuff. But there was a gentleman, on the booking committee that could not stand Dusty, could not stand the control that Dusty had, could not stand his ideas. And part of Dusty's ideas was, hey, there's a lot of guys here in Florida that can wrestle for us, and they can get in a car and be here in an hour. We don't need to bring them in from halfway across the country. So it started to be that some guys from up north had started to be left off of TV tapings and left off of shows. So it being a political business, their buddy just absolutely could not stand that. So Dusty left. And I think the whole thing was, there was a tag team tournament, and there was like a Team Trinity, a team, Team Canada, team, the other girl that there's Trinity, and there was another one. So it's supposed to be all these tag teams for a tag tournament, and Johnny Fairplay was going around asking all of them if he could be their manager for the tournament. And they were all laughing at him and, sending him on his way and kind of bullying him. And the joke was like, me and Buck, we had wrestled on the free show, the pre-show. And so me and Buck are just sitting there taking our tape off, and we're getting dressed, and Johnny Fairplay walks by, and he's all disheveled, and he's got, a straw hanging in his hair from, somebody threw hay at him or something. And he's like, hey, you guys, what's your name? Lex, he's like, how about, and so basically the deal was, we were just these jabronis that we were the last pick, for him to have a team. And, this was supposed to be our opportunity. And it was supposed to be us making taking advantage of the opportunity and doing well despite Johnny Fairplay being, kind of lucking into stuff and kind of happening into stuff where we were going to kind of be, it was going to be a comic thing where we were going to be kind of the baby faces and we had a heel manager. I don't know. I didn't know how that was going to play out, but that was kind of how it was told to me. But somebody even told me that, he wanted to eventually have us win the titles, and, but who knows? I was never told that. But anyway, like I said, Monday, he decided to go home, And Tuesday, I mean, we didn't work for Dusty. We worked for TNA. So, Tuesday, it was just Sunday. We did this pay-per-view thing. So I don't know what's going on. Dusty's gone. We got the news. So we went to went to TNA, went to Universal Studios. We're wheeling our bags in, and the new head booker waddled as fast as I've ever seen him waddle before, up to us and said, we are not going to be using you guys anytime soon. Y'all can stay if you want, but you don't need to be here today. So we just kind of looked at each other like, did we just get fired? And so we kind of hung out, and we were kind of in shock, because we had been in the locker room doing doing enhancement type stuff, doing TV type stuff, had some good matches, was doing well for them, but politics is politics. We got labeled Dusty's guys, and that was it for us. When Dusty left, they couldn't get rid of us fast enough, kicked us out of the meeting. Oh, you're not contract, so you need to leave the meeting. And we're like, okay, well, we've been in this meeting for the last 24 months. So I just looked at Buck and I said, I'm leaving. So that was it. We kind of took off after that. It was kind of crappy, but again, it's timing. One day you're, hey, it's going to happen, and then the next day, okay, we didn't do anything to anybody. We just worked hard and kept our nose clean, and the booker just happened to like us. So because of that, we were sent home, and it was. I mean, I can still see him waddling with this big shit-eating grin. I mean, he was so happy. So I won't say his name, but that guy can, I just hope at the end it hurts for that guy right there.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah. Now, that's just like you said, it's so interesting with wrestling. It's like, okay, we became Dusty's boys, which was great for what it is. But then when Dusty leaves, not so great. Like I kind of like left in the dust there, so to speak, if you will, a little pun there. But it's one of those things where, man, the wrestling business a little too political. Like it should be okay. We could maybe save some money. These guys can work. They're in Florida. They're not going to have to be brought in. We got a cool little angle with them. We got Fairplay, who's a heat magnet. This could work, and then it doesn't work out. Sucks sometimes, but yeah, that's what happened, I guess.
Oh yeah. The I have so many near miss stories. It's hilarious. You remember that Spirit Squad?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, that was my idea.
Get out of here.
Yep. So I was a cheerleader in college. I mean, to people who haven't gone to college or haven't experienced that, it's kind of it's like, what is that? But we used to throw the girls up in the air, catch them, hold them in one hand, and we used to compete. And I did it on a really high level. This was kind of this was maybe 2005, kind of at the 2006, this was the second time. I kind of went back. I got a hold of Jeff Jarrett after a few months, maybe a year of the whole Dusty deal. I went off and did other stuff, and then got a hold of him about a year later. The political, the booking had changed, so I was back, but I really wasn't doing anything. There was no gimmick for me. There was, all I was doing was just kind of enhancement, and I knew that if I was going to get over, I had to bring something. So my idea, and I emailed Jeff Jarrett, and I was like, this is my idea. And I'd sent him pictures of me doing different things, in my college days, holding two girls up over my head and things like that. So I was like, what about a cheerleading couple? You'd have a hot girl in a hot little outfit. And you'd have this cheerleading guy that that everybody hates. He's smarmy. He's He's just, he thinks he's better than everybody. He's always kind of peppy and, just kind of try to figure out, what the character was. But he would be a cheerleader from Freedom University. I said, I can just hear it now as I come out. Everybody thinks they're chanting with me, but they're chanting F you. So F you. I can imagine the whole entire arena. F you, F you. Everybody loves that kind of stuff. So that was kind of the gimmick. He's like, well, I like the idea, but we can't have FU. We can't do that. He goes, well, why don't you come up with something, and we'll see how it works. So I went and I had a buddy that had he owned a wrestling, or excuse me, a cheerleading gym. One of the actually the best gyms in America, Brandon All-Star. So if anybody knows them. So I went and got a uniform. I got a girl's uniform and I got a guy's uniform. I took the branding off the uniform, and I took it to Sarah. I took it to Sarah, who did the uniforms, and I said, hey, this is what I want. I wanted to say TNA. So we had TNA uniforms, cheerleading uniforms. And, so we show up and they look at us and they're like, so what do you do? So I went out in the ring and I tossed her up, over my head, grabbed both of her feet in one hand. And then, just kind of popped her down, and they're like, holy crap, that's incredible. Yeah, let's see how we can figure this out. So we ended up doing a match. We ended up doing 3 matches, all dark. And I remember on the second time, we're sitting there and they wanted to block through. They wanted to do the entrance, and we're blocking through. And I've got everybody in, this was like pre-match. Everybody's going over their matches and stuff. And they actually had to clear the ring for me to get in there. No pressure. So I tossed her up, did a couple things with her and get done. And everybody's eyes are open. Their jaws dropping. So I remember Kip Sop, he was like, man, y'all got to put that on TV. You got to put that on, just get it on freaking TV. And I remember he was in the same guy that waddled. He was like, oh no, we're not gonna, we don't know what we're doing with this yet. And he goes, man, just put it in the opening, just have him do it so you get it on TV. So that was the second time we did that match. So I remember taping was around Tuesday. Around the weekend, I remember it was a weekend. MVP calls me. Back in the day, me and Antonio were really tight. We've wrestled a lot, and just had some incredible times together. So there's a great amount of respect and friendship there. He calls me up. He goes, dude, we were talking about, I had been talking with him about the cheerleading gimmick. So he's like, dude, you're not going to believe what's going on. He's like, they're doing a spirit squad at WWE. I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, they're doing a spirit squad. They've got 4 guys. They just called them up because Antonio was in Georgia Championship Wrestling at the time. He was still trying to figure out that gimmick, or still training up. But he's like, no, they're getting ready to put a spirit squad together. They've got these 4 guys that they called up. He goes, man, you need to call Steve right now. You got to get off the phone with me and call Steve. So I call up Steve. I was like, hey, Steve, man, I hear y'all are doing some kind of spirit squad. I said, I'm doing that gimmick in TNA. I mean, I did that for real. And I was just kind of thinking, well, maybe this gets me in. Maybe this is how, I get into WWE or whatever. So I remember it was like Saturday that I called him, sent him, or I took him a bunch of stuff. I remember I had to go to his house and I had to take him a bunch of stuff, a bunch of videos for him to get to Johnny Ace. So 2 days later, they called me up. They sent me to Daytona, there was a house show, and I actually went out with one of the guys in the Spirit Squad outfit and kind of did a tryout of what I was all about. But of course, at the time I was too old for the gimmick. They wanted the I don't know. I heard all kinds of stories, but really, I truly, honestly believe we were getting ready to do the cheerleading gimmick. Somebody called one of their buddies over at WWE, say, "Hey, this is what's going on over here," and because they rushed that thing as soon as they could. They wanted to get that thing on TV so fast, and they did. I mean, it was a matter from the time the guys got called up, and you know how slow creative works. It takes them years to develop stuff, and they're the ones with, oh, we don't have ideas for these people. They got an idea. It wasn't an original idea, and they said, "Hey, let's steal it and let's go ahead and get this on TV." I mean, the guys didn't even have real uniforms. They had sweatpants and a white turtleneck. So it was just like, but it was kind of I think it was kind of an FU joke, and it got over. But that was another thing. Hey, maybe I don't know if it would have ever done anything in TNA. It could have got over. But I mean, how's that for luck and timing, and you come up with a gimmick and you get beat out by WWE, before TV. So yeah, gotta love the wrestling business,
Man, those thieves, those bastards. That's crazy.
Yeah.
With WWE, was there ever another chance? Because I know you were on Heat right after that against Eugene and stuff. Like, was there ever another chance with WWE?
I would do. I did a handful of matches, Heat matches, and I kind of was more. Once I went to Japan, I was kind of more, that was kind of where I wanted to be. That was the kind of wrestler I wanted to be. So at the time when I got done with Japan, I really wasn't pushing hard for WWE. I was wrestling, for TNA quite a bit. But the WWE after that, I'm full of excuses, but that first tryout, I didn't realize that, one of my trainers, Jimmy Del Rey, had heat with one of the guys that was in charge of hiring for WWE at the time because of a falling out they had when they were tag partners. So I mean, that's another one that kind of, I got heat by association there. So it just it was kind of a bad experience, and like WWE just after Japan, WWE was just not anything that I had the passion for. So I just kind of, last time I wrestled, it was 2000 and what was it? It was 2008. 2008 at I wrestled Eugene at Amalie Arena here in town. But that was just extra work, whenever they were in town, they'd call us up. We'd go. Sometimes we'd be security guards, and some guys. Sometimes we'd get thrown through a table at catering, or sometimes you never know what you're. Sometimes you get super kicked walking down the hall. You never know what you're going to do. You just show up as an extra. Actually, my last match, I wasn't supposed to wrestle. I get there, they tell us, we don't need you guys. And then it was about 6:45, Sergeant Slaughter come up and said, "Hey, are you Lex?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You have Eugene, Eugene, 6 minutes, go find him." And I was like, I didn't even have my gear on or anything. I was in street clothes, and doors open in 15 minutes. So, you never know what you were going to do showing up for as an extra for WWE, but the cards were never there for me. So, it never happened, but I had a great time. I had an absolute great time. And it was, I got to live a dream life. I mean, who, think about how many people actually get to be, what they said they wish they could be at 10 years old. Like when I was 10 years old, oh man, I want to be a wrestler so bad. I can never be that big. I can never be that, that strong. And you're Kerry Von Erich was the absolute, just the epitome of what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I got to do that. I got to be, like my heroes, and I got to travel the world, just live that life, live the excitement. I mean, there's no greater excitement than going out there and just killing it, having a good, solid match, with somebody that you really respect, give it your all, have the crowd's appreciation, and then just go home and you can't sleep that night because you're like, wow, I can't believe I just did that. And to be able to experience that and you conquer your fears over and over and over again. I don't know of a single person that isn't afraid to walk through that curtain. I don't know if, there may be somebody out there, but when you're sitting in that gorilla position and the fear that you're choking down and the doubt that you're putting on yourself, and don't forget, don't mess this up, don't hurt anybody, you're trying to remember, what you got planned, and you're like, you're afraid you're going to forget, you're afraid you're going to walk out and fall down. Sometimes you're so nervous. But just to be able to suck it up and just say, you know what, this is what I came here to do, and to walk through that curtain and get that pop or get that boo, that you were hoping for. That's just magical, and there really isn't a whole lot that you can, you can do to get that high naturally. It's just the coolest thing. So I don't have any regrets. I had a great time. It was a great life, but if you're counting whether I had a successful career and that's your metric, then I had a successful career. I had a successful life at it, and I was able to move on. I've got some aches and pains. I've had my shoulder completely replaced. I've got a torn groin that I'm getting towards it's taken about 4 or 5 years to get that back. But for the most part, I'm not going to need a wheelchair. I'm able to move on with life and do good things, just do great things, on a daily basis that doesn't kill me, but and actually, pays me on a steady basis. So that's kind of, me. That's kind of, what wrestling was to me, and what it means to me now, and what life's been like, afterwards. Very blessed to have been able to do it and get out the other side and overcome, any addictions that tried to get me, and any of the depression and any of the, that's the thing, wrestling will really get its hooks into you. And the guys that can't free those hooks and free those bonds, there's the guys that can't really move on and can't really get to that next step in life. But because it means so much to so many people, you can't duplicate it. You can't really describe it. You can't really, put it in words that can, accurately describe it. It's just amazing. It just, it gets that adrenaline, just, people get hooked on it and just can't let it go. But I was able to overcome that and just move on and have a good life, afterwards.
Awesome stuff. Before we let you go, as we wind down, head towards the finish, where can everybody follow you? Do you do social media? Are you out there? Where can everybody see or hear from Lex Lovett, or done with wrestling? Don't really do the social media stuff.
No, I don't do the social media stuff. Social media for me is keeping up with family and friends, but down the road, if anything ever pops up, if I ever do a book or anything like that, I may. But like I said, I like the quiet life. I like to stay low key and just be old school, be an old fart, be an old hermit. But but um, yeah, if anybody wants to see some wrestling matches, there's a bunch on YouTube. Search it up, Lex Lovett. There's some good stuff on there. A lot of good matches with Antonio Banks, who's MVP now. A lot of good stuff with Buck Hugh. A lot of good stuff with Scoot Andrews, Bruce Santee. Some of the TNA stuff I did. Some of the Heat stuff. So that's the coolest thing about social media and the way the internet, has been able to capture some of that stuff. I think I don't have a single solitary wrestling tape left. So I definitely, I'm thankful for YouTube and the internet because I got memories that I can take, and it's pretty neat to be able to get a tweet from your 15-year-old kid or a text from your 15-year-old kid that he's watching. They're watching one of my wrestling matches in his homeroom class, and have that there for posterity. So, if you want to see Lex Lovett, there's some old stuff there. It was fun.
Awesome. Lex, thank you so much for all the time. Really appreciate it tonight.
Yeah, thank you.